by AUTM USA and Master Trainer Award by European Patent Office. He has been a keynote speaker at several innovation and incubation seminars across different universities and institutions. We are really glad to have you with us today as the trainer of our workshop. Now, without any further delay, I would like to call Mr. Ravi on stage. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh. Thank you so much for inviting me for today's session. And I'm thankful to IP Press for organizing such wonderful programs. And the way I foresee right now, I have in the live chat there are a lot of research scholars, professionals. This conglomeration of professionals that you have done, the IP Press team has done, is commendable. And also thankful to Vidushi, the editor of IP Press, other people from Team Krishnam and Manya. Thank you for inviting me and giving me a platform. I still see as an opportunity rather than just giving a lecture or a workshop session for an hour. So in the next 1 hour, I have broken it into two parts. One is the 45-minute session. I'll be talking basics about the IPR valuation. And the next 15 minutes, I'll be taking a question and answer round. So the perspective that I have, it is more oriented towards the public sector, how we do the valuation, how what are the things, nuances associated with it. So I'll be sharing a short PPT. I wish I could complete the same in this 1 hour session. In case if it remains so, it could not be completed, then we will try to expedite it and get answers directly. So I'm going to share my PPT. I hope, how does it opens? Okay, here it is. I hope my presentation page is visible to all. Ritesh? Hello, Ritesh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is it visible, Ritesh? Hello? Okay, okay. Let me know if there are any issues with the presentation. So I'll be starting the same. So let's go. Okay, yeah. Ritesh gave a very elaborated uh, profile of mine. I'm thankful to you for that. Let's proceed ahead about the IPR valuation. There is also perspective for the upcoming participants. Like, is there a career in this IPR valuation? What is the qualification required to have a career in this field? Then there are what sort of people do the valuation and all these things. So it's quite simple. Although in India, this such type of professionals haven't come up uh, in numbers, but there are numbers. Basically, all these valuations are being done by chartered accountants in our country. Even if you go to the big fours or the valuation companies, they are really doing so. Regarding the valuators, valuers, they are basically either from Singapore or there is an agency which gives a registration for these such registered valuers in England. Apart from this, there is a trend in US regarding the registered tech transfer professional. This is a new accreditation given to professionals who are dealing into technology transfer and related allied activities. So this is also one. Then there is CLP, certified licensing professional. There's other thing. Then as I've already told that registered valuers in European countries is also a trend for those people who are having expertise. Now let's talk about why this IPR valuation is required. Then I would come down to this growing field of IPR. I'll have to segregate both the things. So as many of you must be aware how we do it basically. Let me switch the slide. Okay. So there are basically three approaches for doing exactly not. Is it not visible, or what is the issue with this? I don't know what is the issue.
Sir, we are not able to see your PPT. Can you type resharing your screen?
Just a moment. I'm trying that.
And after sharing the screen, wait for few seconds. Then it will be there.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, let me try again. Is it visible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's perfect.
Okay. Sorry for the glitch. So, as most of you must be aware, there are basically three approaches that is being used for the valuation of technology. People often confuse it with the valuation of a product, or the what they call it, the BOM, bill of material preparation. So valuation, I mean, IPR professionals do understand what is valuation of IP, at what stage it is required. So the three modalities through which we evaluate the technology's cost, income, and market. There's no rocket science behind this. Cost is basically, if I were to tell you, cost is basically the cost incurred towards the development of the technology. I have prepared a small slide over it, how we do it. Most of the agencies or most of the institutions, how they are doing it. Income approach is basically about discounting the future cash inflows, or about there is a set formula to calculate this income approach. I would talk about this. Then the third one comes as the market approach. Market is again about the comparatives or the existing products you'll have to compare few products with your upcoming invention that may be converted as a product. So all these three approaches have their different reasons why we use such a modality, and why whom are you selling. A public funded organization would majorly prefer the cost approach or the income. There is a reason behind that, because the cost involved is very easier to calculate. We are a public funded organization. We are not here to make any money out of it, but the translational part is more important to us. More and more dissemination of technology is important to us. So the more it goes to the MSME sector, more it is important for us. So cost approach is the most favorable for us. Then here comes as the income approach. Income is again a matter. The only important part that I can tell you right now, apart from those calculations, all these three modes we have calculated in-house, as well as outsource it to other agencies. There's no set pattern that we come to a conclusion and we say, yes, this is the exact cost, this is exact value of the technology. People often misinterpret by using these jargons like the cost, or the value. Cost is basically the incurred, or the price is basically the price that you have paid for getting some product or some technology. Value is something that you get after purchasing that thing. So value and price are completely different. Now here comes regarding the income valuation part. I would like to apprise you that this involves lot of components regarding the income valuation, and assuming and taking out the net fair value not only today but in future as well. For example, what would be the value of your technology XYZ? I have developed a pencil that has several other functions as well, or developed a pen that has several other functions. Now, how would you calculate the value of your technology after 5 years? After 5 years, the scenario may change, the jurisdictions may change, the average market or the market size may change. Then there are other associated factors that may also change. So why to choose cost, why to choose income, and why to choose market? I'll be elaborating in the upcoming next slides, and you will be getting a glimpse of it, why it is required to evaluate a technology, or at what stage this valuation is required. I would like to apprise you that there are several components of valuation like market size, jurisdiction, technology life cycle, growth rate. I would be covering all of them one by one. Then again, I will come back to this slide of cost, income, and market, and then I will elaborate about this. Suppose there is a technology which has a scope and market and requirement for such products in a specific country. For example, there's a huge demand about the automatic locks, door locks in Europe, but the market size is not too big in our Indian scenario. So how about an IP which has been filed in EP jurisdiction as well as in Indian jurisdiction? So if the prospective licensee has to choose one market, he would preferably choose a market where the technology is more sellable, where the more and more demand is there. So the component of valuation some many times depends on the market size as well, or the jurisdiction. For example, you have filed a patent application in India, but you haven't filed the patent in Europe, and now the licensee belongs to Europe only. Then again, the valuation goes down because the first thing, we do not have protection in so and so domain, so and so jurisdiction, and the second thing is, why would he buy the license from you if he can already afford, or if he's already free to sell, reproduce, or manufacture your products without taking license? Then this comes as a second component of valuation. Third is the technology life cycle. While preparing a valuation sheet, suppose I filed a patent which is at TRL1, or a invention is at TRL1, technology readiness level 1, and that patent took almost 5 years for the fabrication. It is a completely hardware based product. Now this TRL1 to TRL5 took almost 5 years. What would happen to the life cycle of a technology? If you recall your days 20 years back, there were BPL mobile phones. There were this much big, around 14 inches, 13 inches long, or 12 inches long. Even the batteries were much more bigger than the current mobile phones. So those mobile phones have become rudimentary and the technology have become obsolete. So again, the technology life cycle has to be calculated while doing this valuation. Is this technology going to be for next 4 years, 5 years? The technology is moving, technology life cycle is moving like anything. The technology that you see right now will be obsolete and rudimentary in the next 13 months. Then again comes back as the growth rate. The technology that you have chosen for the valuation purposes, what is the growth rate? In terms of the market, or suppose you sell a product for X rupees. Is there a growth rate? Is there a demand for such type of technologies or products based on that technology? If there is a negative growth rate, then the valuation is certainly not going up, it is going down. And why would there be a demand for such type of licenses? Then again comes as another component of valuation, margin. Suppose you have a product whose cost is $1,000 and the margin is only 10 rupees. So no retailer, no stockist, no distributor would ever demand for such type of products where the percentage margin is very less, or even at the production or the manufacturing stage, if the margin percentage is so low, then your valuation sheet is again going to go very low. So these components like the cost incurred, the competitive products, all these are very important components while you are preparing a sheet for valuation. How we do it, we basically prepare a sheet. For cost, we'll have to calculate and segregate all the costs incurred. For example, number of inventors, number of projects involved, project size, project fund size, then the time taken for development of so and so technology. Similar is the case for an Excel sheet has been prepared for income approach, where three at least minimum of 3 years of projection is required for the segregation, for the valuation of a technology. You get a net fair value, which is basically a subsidized or a discounted model of a future value of your technology. For example, you get 5 rupees as a value of your technology in the next 5 years. So that will be the future value. How would you predict the value of your technology in the current perspective? So here comes another formula called as discounted cash flow method. Those students or those professionals who are into CA or have done such type of valuation, they would certainly be practicing this DCF, cash inflow method. This DCF is a very prevalent method which is being used not only in IPR perspective but also in company valuations, mergers, acquisitions. This DCF is the most common valuation modality for these IPR valuations. Often we term it as an income valuation approach, although there are other perspective to valuation. There are valuers in European jurisdiction who are taking out or finding other formulas or other modalities of finding, but basically this valuation component runs around only 3 approaches: the cost, income, and market approach. Then here comes the third one, that is the market approach. Suppose I have developed a mobile. Now, how would I compare the value of this technology? I'll have to figure it out the market of another mobile which is already in the market, selling as a product. Now I'll have to find out what are the components available for this. Is it going to be a cost effective one? Is it going to be something which is n number of extra in terms of features or value for money? Or what is the value proposition that I'm going to bring in that? So if you are aware about such type of products already into the market, then market approach would be always be the feasible one. As per my experience of almost 8-9 years in public sector, we always use the cost or the income. And believe me, whenever we go for valuations, even different valuers are certainly coming, except for the income approach, different valuers are coming with the different valuation figures. So it is not a set pattern, no set formula. You may say that the value of technology is X, but maybe the some other person is doing the valuation of that technology and coming up with a different value. So it is always a hypothetical, it is always debatable, it is always negotiable. Many of you must be wondering what stage one is supposed to do the valuation of a technology. So this is quite pertinent and very important question. I think all of you must ask this. But before going very much critically into details, I would like to apprise you what is the stage at which this valuation is required. How many of you have heard about this word triage? TRIAGE. If you have heard this word ever before, or you have watched any period movies in during the World War I or the World War II, you might have heard about this triage, where the highly wounded soldiers, when coming back to the base at the base hospital, then there are 4 stages: T1, T2, T3, T4. So the highly wounded, where the chances of survival is less, is sent to a separate terminal, and where lesser wounded who can survive are given more care and more medical professionals time. So this is how the triage system works. We follow the similar model for the technologies. How would you ascertain and how would you push your own technologies, whether it is a valuation stage or not? How about a technology which is only at the ideation phase? Would a licensee be interested in taking this technology? The answer is certainly no. How about a technology where the TRL1 to TRL4 transformation time took almost 5 years going from TRL1 to TRL4? Would an industry partner be interested in taking a technology which is at a ideation phase? No, the answer is completely no. Industry is only interested for a technology which is at TRL 6 stage, has been validated. Despite taking your validation results, they still go for another validation of your technology. So if all these 5 points are being sufficed by your technology, the technology that you have developed. I'm talking from the inventor's perspective, lesser from a valuer perspective. A technology, if at TRL 4 or below, has lesser chances of licensing. Why? Industry has no time and money to spend their time over development of their technology. Then is your technology validated? If yes, then again the industry, whosoever is going to take your license, is again going to spend some time in utilizing the same validation data that you have provided. The third question comes out, the technology life cycle. Are you developing something that has already been into market, or there is no demand, or just you have got a patent granted? Doesn't makes you qualify that it is a valuation stage or someone would be interested. So one very pertinent question comes out. If you start on 1st of January for a TRL upscale, you have devised your project, now you are going towards the fabrication, and you took almost 4 years from transformation from TRL 1 to TRL 4. Would someone be interested? The answer is again no. Just by mere doing a valuation through some approach doesn't make it qualify as eligible to be transferred as a technology. Then the foremost question and the most important is inventor's objective. Are you interested in completing the entire circle, or are you only interested in getting a grant of a patent application? So with all this conglomeration of these key points that you see right now in front of my screen, I can clearly say if you have done all these 5, then you are at a valuation stage. You can go 2 routes. One is a licensing, another is startup route, or whatever you may prefer. Now this is the preferable stage for a valuation. I mean, these are the stages where the most of the licensing happens. I have few case studies that I personally have done in IIT and associated institutions where I worked, and it came out to be, I mean, this is coming out to be a common thing among all the technology licensing. I mean, a technology below 4, I never saw a technology getting licensed which is not at a fabricated stage or below 4. Uh, higher value of a technology is only possible if you have a validated results. That the industry is lesser and lesser interested for technologies which have not been validated. Even TRL 4 doesn't provide you a privilege to where the industry partners would be interested in taking the license of a technology. So conglomeration of all these 4 or 5 points is very much pertinent for evaluation. This makes it qualify as a valuation stage. After the valuation stage, there are several components which are dependent on your valuation strategy, or the figure that you have come up, like the exclusivity, jurisdiction, licensing domain, royalty, upfront, sub-licensing consideration, licensing duration, equity share. I recall 1 month ago, we have licensed a technology to a Gujarat-based company. The demand from their side was they wanted an exclusive license for the exclusive license for the technology that we were licensing to them. Well, the problem was the initial valuation that we have done. We have fragmented the valuation, and it was more like where the weightage was given more towards the royalty part, and lesser towards the upfront consideration. Then we found out a very simplistic solution to our problem, that we give them an exclusive license in a specific domain only. That technology they were working was in dairy sector or food domain, but we gave them that technology exclusivity license only so that they can only use it in the dairy sector. So that's how these negotiation components are very much pertinent, very much important, and in and around moving towards the valuation of a technology, irrespective of the fact whether you have used cost approach, whether you have used an income approach or market approach, it does not matter. Majority of our transactions that are happening are coming out to be these startups. I mean, they do not have the infrastructure, they do not have the resources to develop a lab which is costing around 10 CRs of worth of money, and they do not have the capital to provide a very high amount of upfront consideration to institutions like IIT Kanpur or an industry partner. The one major drawback, as per the recent even the reports that came out of Niti Aayog, the participation of R&D in our country is coming majorly from the government or the public sector. While on the contrary, if you see and compare the same with the European country or the US or Japan, the majority of the R&D contribution is coming from the industry partners. I'm not saying majorly means there's a huge chunk, but they are surpassing the public sector. So that's how this negotiation components do involve some of the key strategy towards the valuation. If you are doing a valuation in order to increase more and more value of your technology, you may be thinking about from that perspective what sort of options you may give to the licensee. For example, if you are going for a non-exclusive license for a technology, why would someone give you the highest value of your technology? Why would someone give you a very high consideration for the technology where you have valued X amount of money which is beyond their limitation? So a strategy has to be there. A wise strategy is always recommended, whether to use a cost approach or an income. Sometimes we restrict ourselves to cost approach only. We know the reason. Even the main strategy before calculating all this is what is the worth of the licensee. Are they capable enough to take the license, or are they just taking all this for the sake of their for their knowledge base? So this strategy of knowing your licensee first is always advisable before going for the valuation of your technology. Then all these components that you see right now, like the equity shares and the latest trend that have come up, if some incubate or some startup is unable to provide a net fair value upfront consideration, then we can go for a valuation of the technology, valuation of the incubate, and we can always negotiate. Okay, you cannot provide us the upfront consideration, please do provide us a equity share in your company. That may be some chunk of the current value of your company. So it is going to be a dual situation where we are evaluating the technology also, where we are simultaneously also evaluating the value of a startup as well. So these are the negotiation components along with the valuation. And this IPR valuation, as I have mentioned earlier, it is not only restricted to IPR, it is also applicable to mergers, acquisitions, and this latest trend of ESOP, where employees are opting for ESOPs because these startups cannot afford high paying salary for these executives. So it is always advisable that the career is certainly there. There are a lot of options irrespective of the background, educational background that you may have. Like if you are from science background, it is not necessary that you cannot go and become a valuer. So there are a lot of options out there. As far as me knowing, majority of the valuers are coming from the commerce background. My experience provides me this. There may be some valuers who are having some different expertise, some combination of MBA, BCom, or valuation, or maybe a BCom, CA kind of thing. But this valuation is open for all. As of now, in India, there is no restriction or qualification required to become a valuer. That's my experience. I would like to quote one of the technologies which have been valued by us, which has been recently transferred, licensed to another company, SPMCIL from Hyderabad. This company is involved in printing of stamp papers, and counterfeited fake stamp paper is a major problem which is coming and again and again. So we valued the technology. We initially started working on this technology way back. The inventors started working way back in 2016. And when they started, within 4 years, they were at TRL 6. They had validated results. Now, this technology has been acquired by the industry, Now the industry not only took the validated results, they again went ahead and valued the revalidated the data provided by us. So this is again a chicken and egg story, which is coming from TRL1 to TRL6. So the valuation that we provided was surpassing the valuation done by their valuers. Then we got to know that this is something wherein sorry for the glitch. There was some, my laptop had some issues that has been resolved. Okay, so I was talking about the valuation strategy. We initially went ahead and did a valuation of this technology, and we went ahead and shared our valuation figures to that with the licensee. Then they were very much interested in knowing what sort of modality we have devised in coming up to so and so figure. For example, we came up with a figure of X as a net fair value of this technology, and the licensee had also outsourced the valuation of this technology, and they came up with X minus 10. Then there was a huge difference, and it became that both the parties had their own stand in terms of the valuation. uh, they asked for the valuation strategy and the formula and how we did it. We shared our own valuation figures with them. Then we requested that is it possible that you may also show the strategy and the formula that you have used and came up with so and so figure. We also went ahead and found out that their valuation strategy was similar, but the figures that they have used was somehow different. So again, it came out to be a hypothetical situation where this negotiation phase went almost for 12 to 13 months for a single licensing transaction to be completed. And after this, we realized that you need to be always vocal about your strategy. It is not going to happen that you have developed a strategy or you have calculated the value of your technology and you are going to keep it as confidential. The valuer on which you have relied may have used some other component for the valuation of a technology. So you need to be open about that. You need to share your components, what you have done, how you have valued. And when there is a conflict of interest for such type of valuation arises, then you need to be flexible on that. uh, Getting something is always advisable rather than sticking to your ground of your own formulas. So that's how this successful anti-counterfeiting technologies has been licensed. This transaction took almost 13 months for the licensing, and we have successfully done. The income approach was utilized for the valuation of this technology, and we not only did it in-house only, but we also did outsource some valuers for the valuation of the technology. So two valuation from our side, one valuation from the licensee side. That's how this valuation has been done. And now this technology is going to be prevalently used in the upcoming days and on all stamp papers. Already this technology is being used on some wine brands in Europe and some medicine brands in India. So prevalently this is a real success behind filing a patent application and getting it translated. So for a valuation expert or for a person who is dealing on daily basis on technology transfer, this is a logical conclusion for us. If this technology gets translated, gets licensed to a company, is more important than sticking to your ground on what strategy you have used. For example, you have used cost approach and income approach. For both the approaches, the valuation, there are more chances that your technology is getting licensed if you have used a cost approach. So with options, you'll always have to be ready you'll have to be ready with your cost approach and income approach, and you'll have to be ready with the investigation about the licensee. Are you aware about his financial backgrounds? Are you aware about his financial turnovers that has been done, 3 years or 5 years of data? Do not just quote the figure in an abrupt manner. Do it initially for the technical discussions with the inventors. Do wait for their background search, how capable they are. Are they capable enough to take the license of this technology? If they are, sometimes these strategies are very important in deciding whether this technology is going to be licensed on exclusive basis or on non-exclusive basis, jurisdiction, sub licensing will be allowed or not allowed, or for what duration is it going to be licensed, for 5 years, 10 years, perpetually. Perpetual licensing is another option for those technologies which have not been licensed as an IPR. So you have to understand one thing, that technology licensing is not only related to the value part, but also an expertise is required from the inventor side. All licensees cannot afford an infrastructure or the resources that an inventor has. So they are giving some component, some margin of their revenues to the licensee. So such type of transactions do happen, but the strategy has to be defined way before going ahead with the value or the figure that you have right now. I have another slide to show. If you see on your screen, school bag converted to study table. This is basically a design decision, or in layman terms, people call it as a design patent. Uh, how this started? This basically this student turned entrepreneur Ishan found out there is a problem statement. He went ahead and found out a solution for that. Initially, this design patent belonged to IIT Kanpur, and what we found out there that this bag market size is quite big, but the modality or the plans that the prospective licensee has elaborated to us was somewhat different. And this comes out to be on the tables. You often ask the licensees, what are your strategy, how are you going to sell it? Then they apprise us that they are going to target the government CSR model. So 50% will be the cost of this product, if in case he gets the license, would be incurred by the government, and 50% of the cost of this license would be incurred by the CSR model of private companies. So this is it, and we have a target of selling somewhere around 1 lakh units of this bag annually. Then there were clear projections clear projections available for taking out the value of the technologies. What was required was a BOM cost needs to be bill of material. Many students who are not well versed, I'm not talking about professionals who are sitting in here, but I'm talking about research scholars or students. Bill of material is a very important factor or component in taking out the value of a technology. Then we went ahead and found out what are the components of this product, how much it would cost, what are the alternatives, what are the alternative vendors. Then we finally calculated the BOM cost of this technology. There were 3 variants, around 6 BOM costs was coming out. It was really a tough time for us to take out the most cost effective BOM cost value. Then we use that BOM cost value and figure out what could be the cost of a product that can be sold, what could be the margin that could be taken out from the product. And with all this and calculations, we came up with a figure. If we figure it out, if a so and so licensee has been selling 1 lakh unit of this product for so and so years, say 5 years, then what is the revenue that he's going to make, and how much can we ask for? If a licensee is making 1 CR a year, can we ask for 20 lakh rupees for him as a revenue share? The simply answer is no, because profit margins are not there. Then there are other expenditures that are associated. Then there is a cost factor or the tax factor which is involved. Then we'll have to think about from that perspective, are we considering the BOM cost or taking out the value of a technology from the perspective after the tax or before the tax. So you'll have to there are taxes before, there are profits before tax, then there are profits after tax as well. So all these calculations and conglomeration, we came out with a figure. That figure was result of an income approach. That negotiation went for almost 6 months. Then we found out that this startup didn't had the did not went for any valuation from a third party. They were completely reliant on us, completely relying on us. So this negotiation went for all. Then finally the result of this entire valuation negotiation came out that we relaxed towards the upfront consideration. We converted the upfront consideration more towards the equity transfer from the startup company to the licensor, rather than asking for a higher upfront consideration. So this component has been broken into few parts. Like one was a upfront consideration where partial cost part in was coming out. Then there was a equity part from the startup which has been transferred from the startup to the licensor. Then the third thing was a revenue share, a fixed revenue share per unit sold was being asked from so and so startup company against the against the licensee. Then we found out why not outsource our licensing strategy. We had a different strategy where we outsource our tech transfer efforts. So what is it? We gave them an option of sub licensing. Believe me, when you are saying someone, a licensee, that you are free to sub licensee, so sub license the technology, you are not only allowing him to sub license, but the load that you have over you regarding finding another person and selling him on non-exclusive basis, so that workload gets away from you. Suppose he got some other person for sub licensing, so whatever be the income that he's getting from him, some X percentage of that income would come back to the exact licensor. So this is another strategy that we have devised in the phase of valuation, and how we came up with this successful transaction. So this is all about few successful transactions that we have done. Unfortunately, time is not on our side, on our side, or else I could have figured it out other issues regarding the valuation part. One very important component regarding the technology readiness level, a component is technology readiness level. For this was the exact thing which is very important from licensor perspective or from valuer's perspective. At what stage your technology is. Suppose your technology is at TRL3, this TRL model changes from domain of the technology. Suppose had it been a case where this belongs to a life science based technology, then this TRL model would be different. Right now what you see in front of me is a European TRL level that the public institution has adopted. Now if you see, had it been a case, you just it's an assumption, you assume that you have developed a project plan and you want your technology to be licensed to a private company. Now in that phase what would happen, you are spending some resources, time and money towards the valuation of a technology in pursuit of an objective where this technology gets translated. Have you figured it out whether so and so party would be interested in taking your technology which is at so and so stage? So again, most of the transactions do not happen just because of the case. They go on the website of patent website of different countries. They figure out who is the applicant. They go through the research papers. They find out. Although the industry partner knows what is happening in parallel labs, but when they come out and find it out that nothing has happened in past 3 years or 2 years, the technology hasn't transformed from TRL1 to TRL4, and the valuer is coming with a value of a technology. So the value of a technology is X at TRL1, is X plus something at TRL2. The more it goes on the higher side, the technology valuation also goes up. So if the inventors want high value of your technology and more chances of getting it translated and gets licensed or commercialized, then you'll have to move and transform your technology. time is a very key factor, very important, pertinent factor in getting the technology license. If you almost took 5 years from reaching TRL1 to TRL5, then there are no chances that your technology is going to get licensed. On the contrary, if you took 2.5, 3 years, 3.5 years in developing an engineering-based technology, a core engineering-based technology, then that is the case. On the contrary, for life sciences-based technologies, this time becomes completely on the contrary side. For engineering-based, a TRL1 to TRL4 may take some 12 months of time or 18 months of time. But for a life science-based technology, TRL1 to TRL4 may take 4.5 years. So again, there is a valuers saying you cannot compare bananas with oranges. So banana has to be compared with banana only. So again, the valuer, whenever they come and ask for the valuation sheet, they come up with lot of questions. They have lot of strategies. They have lot of queries, which they always ask the inventors or the applicants. So then they came up with a figure. So the common thing that we have observed in all these transactions, like if you are on a higher side of a TRL, the valuation of your technology would also certainly go up, irrespective of the fact whatever with the modality that you have used, be it the cost part, be it the income part, be it the market part. I thought of keeping, although I have changed everything exactly. This is a similar kind of uh, tech brief sheet that we use whenever we are preparing our, presentations for coming up with a conclusion for the cost evaluation part. I would like to share this with the students how we come up. You'll have to bring a lot of background information as much as you can about the technology. What are the similar products? What is the scope in industry? Which are the, is it only applicable to hospital, only applicable to pharmaceutical industry? Who are the end users of this technology? What is the remaining life cycle? These are components, these information are very important for doing a valuation of a technology. So this we have done it for the cost approach. Cost approach was used while we were calculating the value of this technology. So this sheet was used. I thought of using it in front of you so that students, so graduating students, would know what we do it. Although I cannot show or disclose the exact figures we came up with, but this was it, a similar tech brief that we have developed, followed by another page. So we came up with, all these figures are not realistic. I have changed all these amount figures that we have done. Just wanted to show you the cost incurred in developing the technology. How much time does it take? What was the prototype development cost, patent filing cost? Suppose a patent filing cost would involve 3.5 lakh rupees for the first 6 years. On the contrary, it abruptly jumps up to 6 lakh rupees for an Indian patent application for an applicant which is a larger entity, because on the 16th year the annuity payments go up to up to 40,000 per year. So all these parameters will have to club for how many more years we'll have to maintain the technology, then their associated costs involved with it. We'll have to make or develop our policy related to it. For example, if you have a technology, the institution wherein I work, we have a clear-cut policy. We maintain the technology only for the first 6 years, and during the 6th year, we try to find out what are the triage system. Is it above TRL4? How much time does it took from TRL1 to TRL6? Are inventors interested in taking this further towards a fabrication or the validation? Has it been validated in past 6 years? If the answer is no towards the validation, the answer from our side is always no. Then there is no requirement for going us and spreading the technology in technology fairs, cold call, cold emails, tagging the CTOs or CEOs. Then this entire effort towards promoting the technology and getting it licensed. So valuation would not give you a privilege to get it licensed. The technology has to be there something. The technology needs to be on the higher scale of TRL, then only your technology would get licensed. So this was another approach of calculating the cost of the technology. We came up with a formula where we found out that X was the consideration plus GST that we may ask from them, then X percentage of revenue shares on net sales of the product, then X percentage of sub licensing income that we may ask from the licensee for the so and so thing. So all these calculations, this was the realistic sheet that we have used for the cost approach purposes. And we had some strategies. We found out that what could be the cost per unit of the product, uh, in case when we show them that these are the figure or the net fair value that we came up, what are the options that we are going to give them. Suppose he's ready say 10 rupees for exclusive license for 5 years. How about a scenario where he is giving us 20 rupees for an exclusive license for 10 years? So again, I mean, you'll have to give them options of giving back the valuation, give them the value that you have calculated within the strategy. You'll have to give them options of giving the upfront consideration in tranches, then their exclusive rights. What jurisdictions are you going to provide? Is it the Indian jurisdiction? Is it the some other jurisdiction? So all pertaining all this, along with your valuation strategy, you'll have to keep your negotiation strategy way beforehand. Even the day your initial conversation starts and your technical discussions are done, you need to come up with all these negotiation strategy, licensing options, and valuation modalities. So and that's all from my side. I have some success stories that what IIT Kanpur licensed technologies have been adopted by these MNCs: Curative, Juno, WeatherRisk, eSpin. Even Tata has taken our technology. The Tata Switch water filter uses our technology, which has been transferred or licensed to a company a few years ago. So they're all students or colleagues of mine, counterparts of mine, professionals. That's all I have. I have some keynote. I just wanted to apprise all the participants that IIT Kanpur has the exceptional licensing percentage of 16.66. Even this West universities, Stanford and Cornell and MIT, they do not have this exceptional licensing percentage. Uh, 17 out of 100 patents are getting licensed from IIT Kanpur. And this is a strategy. This is just because of the strategy that we have used. Thank you from my side. If you have any more queries, questions, you may ask me, and I would be happy to answer all your queries.
That was a very insightful session, sir. There are queries and questions of the attendees here, and I would like to take your attention towards the right side where the question column is given, sir, and I'll read out for you also. One of our attendees, Mr. Vijay Satiraju, has asked a question that you said public funded organizations prefer cost approach, usually for how much margin they would prefer to negotiate to the total cost of their invention. How we decide the margin?
Okay. Vijay, your answer is very pertinent and to the point that you have asked. It seems like you are a professional and you are aware about the nuances of this technology evaluation. What I can say, I cannot disclose all the strategy but what we have, but there is a specific trend for the domain of the technology. Suppose you buy some mobile, then there is X percentage of margin that is being given to the retailers. Again, you go back to automobile sector, you will get some X percentage of margin in that sector. Then again, coming back to your questions, so Vijay has asked what is the strategy towards the what is the margin percentage towards the cost approach that you have taken. Uh, you'll have to think from that perspective regarding a public funded organization. Your cost, if you have spent something, uh, okay, I guess there's some issue with your audio. Your cost must come out. For example, we at public organization, we are not here to make any money. If employment is getting generated out of your technology and the same, British, you need to mute yourself. If job employment is being generated and we are being funded by the government, why not sell it at the cost price? What is the issue with that? I mean, job employment is another thing. Then you are creating and helping towards the MSME sectors. The more and more industry is being created by your technology, then again the value is coming. So do you only see the value in the form of monetary terms, or do you see the employability? Because we from the public funded organization have a responsibility towards the creation of employment and dissemination of technology and creation of MSMEs as well. So this margin percentage, if you need any specific answers to this, I would recommend you must write an email. If you come up uh, with a calculation, I could help you out. But giving you a very random figure that 5% is the exact margin or 50% is the exact margin, that would not be possible for me to disclose here.
We have a second question from one of our members. Uh, it is the second question. Does the method of IPR valuation does this is the second question, sir, in the question box. I'll read out for you. Does the method of IPR
In the
valuation
chat box or in the question section?
question box, sir, question box.
Okay. What is the how do you think economic of, could you read it out for me, please?
I'll read out for you, sir.
Yes.
Does the method of IPR valuation varies with the kind of IP?
Yes, yes, certainly.
I think there is some issue with the mic of Ritesh.
Please,
Let me read out the questions. Okay, so one of the question we have: what is the scope and valuation field for law graduates having commercial background?
uh, commerce background, there is no issue with that valuation. You can, there is no restriction towards a BSc graduate becoming a valuer has more importance in comparison to a commerce graduate and advocate or lawyer become valuer. So as I have mentioned earlier, there is no restriction in the Indian scenario right now. Anyone can become a valuer if you're good with numbers, if you're good with strategy. From career perspective, even me, I'm searching people who can do all sort of valuation. So if you know anyone, do approach me. My email is there. But the best answer for your question is anyone can do it. Can you strategize? This calculation, formula calculation is not a big task. Even there are softwares available, websites available, which can provide you some another hypothetical figure. But are you good with technology? Do you have a thinking or orientation towards the technology? Can you devise a strategy? Can you vocal it out? Can you handle people if they are coming? Suppose you are asking 10 rupees as a value of your technology. You have quoted this as a consideration, and the other person is thinking and was assuming 1 rupees as the cost from his side. So this difference of 9 rupees, can you negotiate? Do you have the patience for next 12 months, 13 months? Even one of my transactions took almost 2 years for it to be done. So there is no restriction on the educational background for the valuers, but a strategy and good understanding of numbers uh, and this technology would certainly make you valuable.
We have one question related to the same. How does one become qualified as a valuer?
So qualifier as a valuer, there are few things you need to. One, there's a registration registered valuers registered in Singapore and UK. One of the outsourced IP firm at IIT Kanpur, they have registered valuers. I can connect you with those. And regarding their backgrounds, I do not recall. Actually, there is a certain pattern that they have to follow. There are certain sets of certifications that they have to adopt or to obtain. Then only they become a valuer. So for the exact qualifications, I can connect you with that. But if I recall correctly, there was no exact qualification pertaining to a BCom background or a BA or a BSc or a BTech background. So for Indian perspective, there is no restriction, but for UK and UK or Europe perspective, or for the US or Japan, I'll have to figure it out, and I can help you with that.
Okay, I hope that must be satisfied with his answer. And next question is, however, do you think economic obsolescence generally does not apply to the IP? because IP is tangible, and whether we can add value to an IP asset even by not exploiting that IP asset.
I mean, how would you? Okay, so Shushmita, this question, I mean, you are saying whether we can add value to an IP asset even by not exploiting that IP asset. So this is not possible. I mean, how would you increase the value or add value to it if you're not exploiting it? uh, it needs to be commercial exploitation is the main objective behind filing a patent. You cannot get monopoly patent. It doesn't provide you monopoly. Compulsory license and the acts behind compulsory licensing are meant for that. So the answer is no. You need to exploit it in order to increase the value of your IPS.
So our next question by Sushmita. When the use of the IP is in its highest and best form cannot provide an adequate return on investment, this tends to limit the value of the IP economically, especially compared to newer IP.
Okay. Shushmita, I wish I can have a one-to-one interaction, but what makes you say that this tends to limit the value of the IP, tends to limit the value of IP in comparison to the newer IP? I do not see. I mean, if you are seeing it from a larger perspective or from a country perspective or from some continent perspective, I'm not aware in what perspective you are saying this. This may be a big assumption that you have right now said that it limits the value of IP economically in comparison to newer IP. Why would a new IP, if it is if it is a part of a portfolio of a patent, then I may agree from your from this comment that you have given. But from a larger perspective, I somehow disagree on that.
So if you have a little bit more time, can we proceed? Like if we can call Sushmita on stage.
Yeah, Shushmita, please come.
Okay.
Yes, Shushmita, you can ask all your questions, but you will need to recall that there are 3 4 more questions and the time is not on our side. Please ask your question.
I think there is some issue with that. Let's
Okay.
let's in meanwhile let's have a few other questions. It is asked
Yeah.
by
So,
yeah, she's
hello.
there.
Yes, Shushmita.
So yeah, the statement was first, and after that I asked the question. So there was some word limit of 250 words, so I just put that in two parts. So the thing was, the first statement was the when the use of the IP in its highest and the best form cannot provide an adequate return on investment, then this tends to limit the value of IP economically, right? So specifically compared to newer IP. So, however, do you think economic obsolescence generally does not apply to IP because IP is intangible, and whether we can add value to an IP asset even by not exploiting that IP asset? So, this is a one question only, not two other questions.
Okay, so Shushmita, the answer is again no. If you say you want to add some value by not exploiting it, that is not possible. If you mean to say that you want to keep it as a trade secret rather than filing it as an IPR, then I may agree with you because what is trade secret? Because the technology life cycle gets shortened if it has been filed as an IPR. Uh, uh, on the contrary, with a technical know-how or a trade secret, there is no restriction on the life cycle. If you have a technology which is way advanced, and if you want to keep it for more than 20 years, then trade secret may be an option for keeping increasing the value of your trade secret. But again, not exploiting, the answer is no from my side.
So there can be no such case where exploitation is not needed.
Uh,
Uh, from my experience and from my perspective, I say no. If you get to know about any such instances where the inventors or applicants haven't utilized or exploited their IP and the value of IP kept on increasing, then I would request you to send me an email and do enlighten me about that.
Thank you, Sushmita, for wonderful questions. We are in short of time, so let's have another question by Nidhi Agarwal. If a technology is in TRL2 but not patented yet, and inventor have patent IP for it in further stages like TRL3, so during valuation, before IP time will be considered.
When I referred, so I would like to say, I mean, do not take my PPT figures and my assumptions that I have shown as a uh, as a as a strict deadline that if you take more than 1 year from transformation from TRL1 to TRL2, then your technology won't work. This is not the case. Uh, and regarding the question that you are asking, your technologies right now in TRL2, would the valuer note down all these things and would the value get diminished? It depends in what domain you are developing your technology. What is domain of your technology? Is it in life sciences or is it in deep tech domain? Is it into AI or ML? Then the ball game changes altogether. So valuation strategy makes the value of a technology vary. They may come up with a different. But regarding the TRL, my take is higher the TRL, higher the chances of getting a higher valuation. If your question is my technology is at TRL2, I haven't filed a patent, but I filed a patent at TRL5, would the value be decreased? I would say it may not have that much effect on the valuation of a technology, but your IP may be copied or your IP may have been used by someone else. So there are contrary chances, contrary to your concerns.
Okay, so last question, we'll take up the last question. Does the method of IPR valuation varies with the kind of IP?
Yes, certainly. Although there are only three methods, what I have disclosed, the cost, income, and market. In our background or the domain of where I work, market approach is not being used. There are certain reasons behind that. The reasons are lesser validated technologies. Uh, the problem statements are on a larger perspective. Uh, then again, this question of IPR valuation varies with the kind of IP. Uh, may happen that I could use a cost approach for a design patent. Because a design patent filing would cost somewhere around $10,000. But for a patent application, filing and maintenance, while it is only taking 5 lakh or 6 lakh rupees, including the annuity payment, then why would I use the cost approach? Then if the cost incurred comes out to be say 20,000 rupees, then again it is a problem for me. I would not never be able to recover my cost that has been incurred over the development of a technology. So this is a one in 100 neuro case where we may only go for a cost approach for the valuation of a technology, but coupling it or adding, I mean, going with a strategy where both the valuation strategies have been used is always advisable.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to all the attendees for the wonderful questions. To conclude this session, I would like to thank everyone for this wonderful and informative session. It was a delight to have you with us today. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Ravi Pandey for giving us his precious time. We could not have had a better speaker and a trainer for the workshop. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the IP Press for this wonderful opportunity, and lastly to all the attendees for making this session a fun and interactive one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, I would like to make an announcement that we will be having another patent workshop on 13th Feb We believe that learning IP should not be interrupted. With this thought, I would like you to invite you all to our upcoming workshop on basic of SCPs, prerequisites before entering the field of SCP litigation and preparing for placements in the IP field by Ms. Justina Matthew on February 13th. You can register for the same on our website. Uh, and the link has been pasted in the chat box. We'll be sharing the certificates within a week, and the link of the feedback form will be attached with the same. And I would request everybody to fill that form so that we can enhance your experience with each event. And with this, I would like to thank our moderator Ritesh and Tina for being a reporter for this session. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.